We visited a country home to the largest rainforest in the world, which also contains a river so large it will be the same size as the next 7 biggest rivers combined. The sheer size of this rainforest is even able to command and shape the weather system across an entire continent. And if that wasn't enough, it's also home to one of the 7 wonders of the world, towering high above one of the most spectacular cities on Earth.
Brazil was one of those countries that had always fascinated us, from the iconic beaches and energy of Rio de Janeiro to the Amazon rainforest, incredible wildlife, and of course, its worldwide reputation for football and carnival. It felt like a country that almost couldn't live up to the hype. We spent 3 weeks there, and today we are bringing you the ultimate guide to the country. We'll answer it all, from the first impressions to whether it's vegan friendly and if it's truly worth the trip for your specific interests and needs, including the bit no one tells you.
Welcome to the Yalla Habibi podcast. I'm Shelby.
And I'm Scott.
We're a couple exploring what freedom looks like in a modern relationship. We're not here as an Instagram couple. We're here for the conversations real couples are having behind closed doors. So if you've ever felt pulled between what you're meant to do and what actually feels right, you're in the right place.
For those who don't know, Shelby is our resident lexicographer and etymologist, also known on this podcast as the countdown legend, Susie Dent. Before we jump in, take the like button out for dinner, take the subscribe button on a cruise, give the podcast 5 tacos, and share the episode to the world. It generally helps us go and keep making more episodes like this.
Relationships, trauma, philosophy. Relationships, trauma, philosophy.
We have to start with the story.
Oh yes, our night with the Hells Angels. That was an unexpected one, and one I've only recounted once so far with some friends, actually a couple nights ago. But before we get into that, let's tell them a little about why we chose Brazil, and then we'll get to that in like a couple of minutes. So yeah, this was our first time there. This was our first time in Brazil. We only had so much time to do South America. We were hoping to do more countries, but we realized we only had time for 2. So we had to choose our top 2, and that was Peru and Brazil. And you'll see we've already done a Peru episode, so do go check that out after this. But Brazil was absolutely up there as well. So that's really why we chose it. And we only had 3 weeks. We'd like to do a month, but we only had 3 weeks. So we chose Rio as our base because we could do the wonder of the world there. We could see a lot of iconic things. We could go to the Maracanã Stadium, one of the most famous football stadiums in the world. And we could easily drive out from there to other places. And of course, it had Copacabana Beach. So it just had a lot going on there, and it had a lot to offer. Even like the food and entertainment was great, wasn't it?
It was fantastic. It was surprising actually, because I think Brazil's quite famous for its meat and Brazilian barbecues and all that. But yeah, there's loads of veggie vegan options, loads of culture. It was just like a real vibe. Like Brazil, I think Brazil's one of those places that it is uniquely itself. Like there are certain areas of the world where there's a lot of repetition. Like I think, and this isn't a diss at all, but like the Balkans were quite similar to each other culturally, food-wise, scenery. Whereas Brazil, I think, is quite unique. I think if you know, there's like an online quiz where you can look at a photo and you've got to try and guess where in the world it is. I feel like Brazil will be quite. I think you'd spot Brazil.
Yeah, it had a lot of iconic spots, and more than I realized actually, like a lot of famous spots where music videos and films had been filmed. But I would even say what you're mentioning for the people, like there are the people, as we've learned from traveling, people are much nicer than you realize, and the world isn't as scary as maybe some people think. Definitely my mum thinks. People are very nice, but there's some countries where there's just a really cool vibe between the people, and it's like everyone's super connected with each other, and they just have a unique way of socializing. And Italy is one of those for sure, but I would say Brazil is one. They're really very welcoming. So if you are in need, I would definitely trust a local Brazilian, very welcoming, very willing to help. And also an interesting thing, they're very romantic. I would say that the Brazilians, they showed a lot of love. Even to us, they only knew us for a day sometimes. They showed a lot of love.
Yeah, I've been reading a book called What I Was Doing While You Were Breeding. I don't remember the author's name right now, but it's a memoir and she traveled a lot of Central and South America. And she was like, if you don't, if you're in Brazil and you don't kiss the guy within 5 minutes of saying hello, he's just going to think you're not interested.
Yeah, so that gives you an example for the romance side. So yeah, the people, the vibe, it was unique for sure. I would say it had a particular, out of all the countries we've been, a cool vibe. You definitely, the people were unique. But yeah, get into that Hell's Angels before we dive into the first segment. My goodness, we could recount this over a couple hours, but we'll try make it concise. Basically, we love rock gigs. We love going to rock gigs, metal gigs, and we just hadn't seen live music in a long time. And we knew Brazil was, especially Rio, it's got a big rock scene. It's got a big metal scene as well. So we're like, perfect. We'll see a band there. I found it was actually Shelby's birthday, the first weekend we were there, and I found a rock gig. And it was a bunch of cover bands. There was a Linkin Park cover band, Evanescence. I can't remember the others. But we were like, awesome, that's going to be really fun. So we found out where it was. We bought tickets. It was like, I don't know, £6, £7 for a ticket. Brilliant. And we go there. And I guess the first thing that we should have noticed is because we had dinner like not far from the place, which was fine. We had nice Chinese. But then we thought we'll walk from here because it was only a 20-minute walk. And that should have been our first warning sign because the 20-minute walk was sketchy as like it was a lot of dark a lot of dark flickering lampposts, a lot of sketchy people. I don't have to describe the type of people, you know, the sketchy people that you see in sketchy areas, people that look like not someone you want to walk into. We're about, and we've become very vigilant and very aware, like we know when we're in a sketchy area or if something's turning a bit awry, usually because we've sort of gotten used to that through traveling a lot. So we knew we were in a bit of a bad part of town, but I didn't think too much about it. I think you were maybe a bit more worried, but I was like, the sketchy places in the world, we do go through them. I'm sure where we're going is going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like as a woman, it's almost like a sixth sense of there's something not quite right here. Yeah, just dirty. Like, I mean, there were areas of Rio that were quite dirty and just, yeah, quite sketchy. And that walk itself just wasn't, it wasn't the most fun for me, but it was easy enough. We got there and we ended up on, we didn't know this location at all in Rio, but we knew that we were aiming for a bar called Heavy Beer. And when we got there, we realized that it was on a street full of biker bars, which was really cool. So I've always been like a fan of biker bars. Like, I think Scott, then it sort of switched to you being a little bit unsure about the situation when we ended up there. And I was like, no, I was like, look, bikers are very like, they've got a code. There's things that you do, there's things that you don't do. I kind of feel like if I was ever in trouble, like and someone was following me and I saw a biker bar, I would go into that biker bar because they've got like a moral code and I feel like they'd look after me as a woman, which, as a man entering that space, I can understand why that might feel a little bit different.
Yeah, it felt very bloody different. And we'll start with the scope. So, I mean, we walk down this street and it is like I've never seen it before. I've seen in the UK biking groups are popular, but to be honest, they're not. They come for the passion of the bikes. It's not like Hell's Angels sort of gonna do any dangerous activities or have the history of what they have. It's usually a bunch of old men, some young 20-year-olds, and they come together. They love the Harleys, they love whatever, and they drive around every Sunday and they have some beers and a Sunday dinner. But this was different. It was a specific street, the one street that has all the main biker clubs, like the actual clubs, not just a bar with bikers in, like they were fully branded clubs. You could see all their memorabilia, all their history on the walls. And I was walking up and down. I mean, we were trying to find this Heavy Beer bar and we were all walking up and down. And there was no one else. There was no tourists. There was no one else but bikers on this road. And I'm talking, there was maybe like 7 biker clubs. So we're talking like 150 bikers there. At least, maybe 200 plus bikes everywhere. And obviously, they're in their particular clubs. They all have their levers on, they all have their patches. And I'm sorry, but none of them were smiling at us. Were they?
No, they weren't. But well, anyway, we saw. It was it next. I think it was next door to Heavy Beer or next door, but one we ended up in.
Yeah, well, I was bricking it because I was like, this doesn't, no one's smiling at us, no one's trying to welcome us in, no one's like, you can come have a drink. They've got guys all around outside, and it's just like, this is a bit much. So we're like, okay, well, we want to have a drink because we just planned to have a drink before, and then I was literally on AI. Honestly, I'm gonna die with AI one day. Honestly, looking at AI, thinking, oh, to check if there's bears near me, hearing a bear in the bush, and I'm gonna honestly, that did happen in Laos. But anyway, I check AI, and it says AI told me it was okay. It says that generally, if you're respectful, they do sort of let you in. Shelby was pretty chill. I was quite nervous, and my nerves were right because we chose a bar. We walk in, all of a sudden, half the guys stood up. They all stood up and went, oh, like made a noise, like a gesture, like, what are you doing? Why you just walked into our club? And they surround us. And then I'm like, oh no, this is it. We're gonna get absolute. I mean, I thought I might get beaten up here. And they were like, what do you want? Like, I was like, can we have a drink? Like, is it okay? They're like, we don't want to be disrespectful. We can just see it's an open bar where, we're coming to the gig down there. And I don't know, they didn't seem too sure that was my vibe. They didn't seem too sure of us. But then one of them took the lead, like a guy who who we found out later actually was a new member. But he sort of took the lead of us, and he was kind. He sort of said, yeah, you can come in. But no one else did. Everyone sort of surrounded us, went, oh, I'm not sure if you can come in here. And they were big blokes. And anyway, there was one guy who was behind the bar. He said, yeah, come in. What do you want? But this one guy, whilst he was nice to us the whole time, he didn't blink. He just stared into my soul. And I was like, this guy either hates me or he's just... No, what I was thinking was, like, is this guy just waiting for me to make a step wrong so then he can, like, get in my face a bit? Because he didn't blink. He just stared right. I felt like his face was in my face the whole time. But obviously over time I found out he was pretty chill. He's just, he had a very intense stare, and he looked like he was about it.
Yeah. So I mean, I have a different recollection of entering it. I think you were super, like, I don't know. I think I was a lot more relaxed about it, definitely, because I felt like we entered and they were just like confused as to why we were there, not like aggressively can't come in. But yeah, this one guy seemed to be the main one that spoke English. But eventually, like later in the night, the woman who owned the women's biker bar came in and spoke to us.
She was one of the heads of the police. She came in.
Yes.
So that I was like, oh, this is where it gets exciting. Loving it. Potential, well, I don't want to say corrupt.
No, definitely not. Well, one thing I didn't like, though, is when I went to the toilet, Scott told me when I came back out, they were trying to convince him to go 2 streets over to the strip clubs. So...
Yeah, I'm not joking. I was quite blown away. The guy who would not stop staring at my soul, then we met the actual leader of the actual club. He was an older, I think he was Dutch.
They were very nice.
Yeah, no, they were nice. They became nice. At first, they were quite intimidating, but they were nice. They told us about their history. But the second you went, the energy changed, and I was like, "This is what I knew. This was going to happen. I knew when it was just me and man, the energy would change." They got a bit more serious with me. I wouldn't say that they stayed kind, but it was just an energy change. Like you, I could tell they were gentle. But once you went, it was more like, oh, okay, I'm talking to the men now. Like I just felt a bit more. I felt a bit more strength from them. I felt a bit more like, come on, and they were like, we'll look after her. Don't worry, we'll keep her here. I'll take you to the strip club. You can think what they were saying. I was quite blown away by this. And I was like, oh my goodness, if I turn them down now I'm going to get attacked. I was like, no, I can't do this. I'm willing to get attacked for Shelby. So anyway, I did turn them down, but they were super cool. And then they sort of showed us around the clubs, and they basically said, these clubs are fine. Don't go into this one. don't go into this. I'm very happy we didn't walk into that one. He said, no, they won't let you in. They're not, yeah.
Yeah. So it was an interesting night. And then we ended up eventually going into Heavy Beer, watching the cover show, which was amazing. Heads up, Brazilian paws are strong. Like, we got hammered. And I ended up crying because Evanescence was my first ever gig. And this Evanescence cover band was amazing. Like, the lead singer, she could have been Amy Lee. Like, she was so good. And I just ended up crying. And I got a photo with the bassist and I told her, I was like, you're so good, I cried.
Yeah, honestly, I'd go out and say that was the best cover bands I've ever seen. Evanescence were 10/10 and Linkin Park, oh my goodness. They even had, obviously Linkin Park have introduced a woman, and they had a woman as well as a guy. So I loved that because they sort of had the combination of the old Chessie and the new woman. Sorry, I don't know her name, but that was amazing. And yeah, Shelby enjoyed herself. She got a Green Day dress, didn't you, and cried. It was quite cute.
I did. I basically stripped off in the street in front of all the bikers and changed into this Green Day dress.
I think that got us some respect. We've gone in, we've got our friends at the start of the night, and you stripped off in the middle of the street. I think we by that point we had built respect. Yeah. So yeah, we were okay, and then it's actually one of the best nights out we've ever had.
Absolutely, it was great.
So anyway, we'll carry on with the episode. It is time for Jet Lag Judgements. Fresh off the plane, here's our honest first impressions.
Jet lag judgment. Call it on sight.
So, what was my first impression of Brazil? We always like to give our first impression because a lot of times you can judge a book by its cover, and it can have an impact on how you feel about the country. So, what was our first impression? Well, one of the unfair first impressions was we had to go into a hostel because we couldn't check into our accommodation that night, and it stank of cats, and I'm allergic to cats, so that wasn't great. But that's not a reflection on Brazil. That was just a smelly cat hostel that we stayed in. But we stayed in Copacabana area, and honestly, I'd totally recommend that. If you're going to stay in Rio de Janeiro, I'd absolutely recommend Copacabana. Closer to the beach, the better. It's really great. You've got a ton of food. It's a great vibe. It's super safe because that's where the tourists go. There's a lot of police. There's a lot of security. So it is totally safe. We never felt worried there. The area of Rio we were telling you about earlier was in a completely different area, just like London. There's areas of London that are dodgy, like anywhere in the world. But it was awesome. Really cool vibe. And but my first impression of Brazil was actually not the smelly cats. It was when we were able to check in, was Copacabana Beach was much nicer than I expected, because our experience of usually beaches in the city are pretty grim, if I'm honest. Usually they're a bit dirty, they've got a lot of rubbish, they've got rocks, but Copacabana Beach is very nice.
It is, and it's really great. As you know, Scott likes running. I even went for a run along Copacabana Beach. It's really good cycle paths, running streets. Yeah, just really beautiful.
Yeah, if you run the length of Copacabana Beach and then like to the end and back, it's about 6 miles. If you include Ipanema. Thank you, Susie. If you include that, it's about 10 miles. So it's really good.
Nice. So yeah, we really enjoyed the beach. And I would say that my first impression, like the first thing that really stood out to me was the pavements. Which might sound really random, and as a sidewalk for our American listeners, it's almost like a mosaic or like a jigsaw. Like, it's loads of small little tiles. Some of them have patterns, like there was one area where there was a wine bottle and a wine glass in the floor, but it's mostly sort of grey and black tones, and just really pretty. I thought it was just Copacabana, but we noticed that it was, I think it was in São Paulo as well.
Yeah, it was everywhere. Oh, I don't remember in Sao Paulo, but it was everywhere in Rio for sure.
Okay, yeah. So that was my first impression.
Yeah, so good first impressions altogether.
Well, aside from my first impression, my favourite thing about any place is finding the vegan food. So now it's time for vegan voyagers. Hungry, hopeful, and slightly suspicious, it's time to judge the vegan scene.
Vegan voyagers. Food we found.
So, vegan friendliness of Brazil, Scott, how easy was it to find vegan food?
That's an easy 5 out of 5, I would say. I mean, Copacabana, we were in a very good area. So Copacabana was easy a 5 because you could walk 5 minutes any direction, you'd get vegan food. And we learned quite quickly most Brazilian food can be quite easy to get vegan, but there was actually a ton of vegan restaurants and vegan pizza restaurants, a bunch of vegan buffets. They love their buffets. Yes, it was great. Maybe the rest of Rio, I'm not sure, but as a whole, I mean, we did travel around Rio a lot, but I would say it was very easy.
Yeah, just one caveat to that. Sometimes there can be miscommunication. So, like, if you're not in a totally vegan place, like we ordered some rice and beans, and I translated it and everything. I was like, is it vegetarian beans? Like, is it just beans? Like, yeah, it's just beans. And it came and it got bacon in it. I didn't realize. Like, we started looking at it. I was like, this doesn't look like just beans. And I said, translated, is this totally vegan? And she's like, no, not totally. It's got bacon in it. I was like, okay. So yeah, just it is easy to find vegan food, but if you're eating in a non-vegan or vegetarian establishment, just be super careful. That would be my only caveat to that. Yeah.
So, how tasty is the food?
That I think is a 4, mostly because like it's just not comparable to the likes of Peru and Vietnam and some of the other amazing places we've been. And like the local food itself, like isn't, I wouldn't say packed with flavor. Like it's not the most flavorful food, but it is tasty, so 4's still good. And in terms of affordability, I would say it again probably a 4.
Yeah, with how affordable, so how tasty was 4, how affordable is the vegan food? Yeah, I think 4. Yeah, it was reasonable cost. I mean, we could get buffet. How much was the buffet?
Well, you paid by weight, so you went around and then you weighed your plate, and then you paid for however much you got. So I think it was like
Like 45 reals each or something.
something like that. Yeah,
How much was that?
I feel like it was I think it was 5 reals. I think it was about £10.
Okay, so we would get about £10 and we had a huge plate of food. So you're talking 10 probably maximum. We sort of spent together about £40 on a more expensive meal. Maybe it was about maybe £45, but that was more of an expensive meal for two of us. So yeah, it's affordable for sure.
And in terms of places that we recommend, I mean, we've already just mentioned a buffet there. So the buffet that we went to near Copacabana was Badana Cocina Natural. And I think that was a chain. And there were quite a few vegan and vegetarian buffets. And even like the non-veg buffets have options as well. One that we haven't actually got written down, but I think is worth shouting out. I think it's called Pop in Sao Paulo. I know we're talking about Rio right now, but it was a all-you-can-eat vegan pizza buffet. So that was pretty exciting. Um, Other food we'd recommend trying is feijoada, which is basically rice and beans, but it's like nice. And again, just make sure that it's vegetarian if you're not going to a veggie place. And now I think this is pronounced coxinha, which is do you remember that? We got it at the Pride, and it was like so it's got a filling. This one was jackfruit. Then it was like wrapped in kind of like mashed potato. Then there was breadcrumbs on the outside, and it was deep fried. And it was kind of like a cone shape. So that was great. I really enjoyed that.
I love that.
Yeah, so definitely recommend getting that. It's very popular street food. You'll get it in a lot of traditional restaurants as well. Would you like to talk about the amazing bakery? Because I feel like you loved it even more than I did.
Yeah, we went to the bakery 5 times when we were there and bought pretty much their entire stock over the 5 times. I've just never seen a vegan bakery before. I've had some cafes that's given a couple of vegan treats, but it was a completely dedicated vegan bakery, so I was just blown away. It's called Barletta, and yeah, I'm sure they have one in Sao Paulo as well. I'm sure they said they had a second somewhere else. But yeah, it's in Copacabana and it's excellent, really good. It has both sweet and savory. I mean, I particularly like the thumbprint biscuits. They don't look like much, but my God, they are good. The thumbprint biscuits are really good. It's like guava jam. It's super nice. The cinnamon roll is really quite nice. The key lime pie is to die for. Yeah, oh God, it was just all epic.
Yeah, for me, the lime cheesecake, the key lime pie one, that was just, oh God, that. It reminded me of, this will sound like it's not good, but it reminded me of the cheesecake they used to get on school dinners, and I love that cheesecake. It's like, It's not cheesecake like Cheesecake Factory cheesecake. It's that whipped cream cheese, soft with a crumbly biscuit. Oh, God, it's amazing.
So it is time to cast our verdict in Worth the Trip. We've explored, eaten, and survived, and now it's time for the real verdict.
Is it worth the trip, or is it kind of shit? Hey! We drank, we ate, survived the bit. Now find out if it's worth the trip. We drank, we ate, survived the bit. Now find out if it's worth the trip.
So, what was my favourite and least favourite? So let's start with least. We like to end on a positive. My least favourite was Now, this is common in any tourist beach, but my goodness, it was particularly bad in Brazil. Copacabana Beach, you get absolutely swarmed by salesmen and women. I must say they're quite innovative, so I'll give them that. They come around with full blooming ovens. Like they'll walk around with sort of full mini barbecue sets, and they'll cook you all sorts. And I did have the cheese; it was quite nice. But it's non-stop. You can be asleep, honestly. Honestly, we were lying down asleep, and they would wake you up, and they'd be like, "Do you want us to braid your hair? Do you want to buy this wooden owl? Do you want a massage?" No, I'm asleep. But they would. You could not look at them. You could just be asleep. You could be talking. They're always, and some of them were persistent. We had one guy who didn't leave for 3 minutes, and it felt like a long 3 minutes because we were like, no, and he just kept going. He was like, and what gets me the most is when they try socialize with you. With my kindest heart, F off. I don't want to socialize with you. I know where this is going. I know you want to sell. I don't care. I don't want to socialize. I don't want to tell you where I'm from. Just in my kindest heart, F off. I just want to chill out. If I want something, I'll give you a wave and I'll buy something. That was my honest opinion on that.
Yeah, that was very annoying. And it's annoying everywhere, but I think, yeah, Brazil was a level up. Okay, my least favourite is quite controversial and probably unfair. But there's two. One is that I didn't like that everyone kept telling us how dangerous it was. Like, people love saying, "Oh, make sure you're safe. Oh, worry about that." Like, in the laundrette, somebody came in and a woman freaked out. She's like, "I didn't recognize him, so be careful." It didn't give the vibe that it was that dangerous.
And that guy ended up being actually our door guy. He was actually really nice.
Yeah, he was.
He was our door guy for the 3 weeks.
Yeah. And so, but my actual least favorite thing about being in Brazil was the fact that Portuguese is the language. And that seems very unfair for me to say, but hear me out, because the rest of Central and South America is, of course, Spanish speaking. And I really enjoyed practicing my Spanish, speaking Spanish, improving my Spanish, communicating in Spanish. And even what I'm not able to say, I have a reasonable level of Spanish that I can understand things. I felt like I could communicate quite effectively. Even small things like asking for the toilet, asking where something is or whatever, like the small things, it actually helped me realize how strong my Spanish is being in Brazil, because my Portuguese is level 0. I know I was saying obrigado for most of it, and it's obrigada as a woman for thank you. So yeah, I didn't enjoy, and Portuguese for me is very difficult to decipher even. So even if I did hear the person what they said, I wouldn't be able to then put it into Google Translate, because for me, it was really hard. It's like a cross between Spanish, French, Italian, Russian. I don't know, it was a real combo language that I didn't enjoy hearing and I couldn't speak. So that's totally on me, but that was my least favorite.
Yeah, it is. I know it sounds maybe quite simple, but it did surprise. I bet it does surprise a lot of people, because if you are traveling around South America for an extended period of time and used to Spanish, you pick up all the sort of phrases, and suddenly you go and you think, there might be some correlation, but no. Portuguese as a language was much harder to interpret and sort of just get used to the phrases than we anticipated. For me, my absolute favourite was just very walkable in the area we were in, Rio, Copacabana and Ipanema, and even the different areas of Brazil. When you went to spots, some areas you drive to, but once you were in a spot, there was quite a walkable city within the areas, which was great. And combined with that, it always had the lively atmosphere of the people. The people really made Brazil. I know we mention people a lot, but it needs to be mentioned for Brazil. I would say that it's particularly unique for Brazil. The people very welcoming, and they have a real buzz about them. They have a high energy, and it's absolutely true that they are football mad. We were lucky to be there for when the World Cup started. Oh, actually, no, sorry. It was the Brazil's last friendly match before the World Cup. So we got to see everyone get into the mood for it, and it was awesome. We went on this street, it was packed full of everyone, and it was awesome. Everyone was absolutely up for it. We bought our Brazil tops, and we even got to go to the Maracana Stadium, which is one of the most famous football stadiums in the world, to watch the Flamengos, which Ronaldinho used to pay for, and that was epic. That and the Hells Angels night out, like, they were the most epic experiences of Brazil and really some of the trip. So yeah, I would say really, yeah, the walkability of everything and just the people just really brought the atmosphere of Brazil.
Yeah, similarly, for me, my favourite thing was just being there and experiencing the vibes at the start of the World Cup. I'm not a huge football fan, although I'm becoming more of one, I must say. But being there for the start of the World Cup, getting to go and watch the Flamingos are the most famous team in Brazil, so it was just so cool to see them play. We saw them win, so yeah, it was a real good energy, good vibe, and also the rock night was my favourite. But it was a lot of fun, I would say, Brazil. That's, if I was to describe it in one word, it would be fun.
Yeah, it really is. And what are we rating it out of 5 as a country?
You're asking me live. I just held
Yeah.
my fingers to Scott. I was like, are we saying 4 or are we saying 5? I'd probably go 4.
Yeah, I agree. 4. 4, I think, is fair. It's lots of fun. But yeah, I just don't think it's like the style. Like Peru was a 5. It was an absolute standout. It was just constant new things, new experiences, lots of fun, lots of variation. Brazil did become a little samey after a while. I think you could do Rio in about 2 weeks. Of course, Brazil as a country is incredible, and it has way more that we haven't experienced, and we totally understand that. Like, obviously, it'd be amazing to go see the Iguazu Falls. It'd be cool to explore more of the Amazon rainforest or the wetlands. I think that's called Pantella, the wetlands. I found out it's the most concentrated place of jaguars in the world. So it obviously offers more, but yeah, I would say it's still about a 4 and 5 in our experience right now. But maybe we'll go back again to see what else it shows. On things you should know before you go. Well, Shelby's already mentioned about the Portuguese. It took us off guard, so you may think we're stupid, but Portuguese is quite a hard language to get to grips with. And the other thing, Shelby was saying, the annoyance of people saying it's unsafe. Everywhere's got an unsafe place, especially their capitals. London has some majorly unsafe places. Manchester has some unsafe places, but Manchester's actually super fun. It's super safe in lots of places. Most of it, same with London. So, yeah, it is much more safe, especially Copacabana, Ipanema, really safe, really fun. So you're totally fine in those areas, and Brazil as a whole. So you're not just going to walk into a favela, because you wouldn't be able to. That would be a bit ridiculous you're not going to accidentally walk into one. So yeah, it's a calm and a beautiful place. Just one last thing was I use the ATMs on the beach just because they're known for being, I mean, it's again to be expected, one of the most famous beaches on the world. Just because people do like sort of hack into them and stuff. So don't use ATMs on the beach.
Just want to add to the ATM thing, potentially unrelated, but my bank account got hacked while we were in Brazil, potentially from using my card at a local vendor. So if you are going to buy something from like street vendors, I would actually advise getting cash out, but make sure it's a safe ATM, like away from the beach, like Scott mentioned, because yeah, it seemed like my card was cloned or something.
Yeah, the safest way is just go to an ATM in a bank. You're not going to have any issues with that. So overall, would we recommend it?
Yes. Yeah, we'd recommend it.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree.
I think there's potential caveats to that in terms of like, I don't know. I probably wouldn't have got on my own, knowing like it's not unsafe, but it's not the safest. So yeah, I'd probably, if I was traveling alone, I'd maybe be a bit more cautious, but otherwise, yeah.
I think if you just stick to where we've mentioned, you're absolutely fine.
Yeah.
The businesses, there's also a lot of businesses open till late. There's a lot of security. Yeah. You're not going to accidentally walk into the wrong part of town. So you'd have to sort of actively get there. So if you don't do that, then you're fine.
For us, Brazil absolutely lived up to the hype. It stood out for its incredible food, warm and welcoming people, a culture that wears its heart on its sleeve, and a passion for football that's every bit as real as people say. So if you're looking for a destination full of energy, culture, and unforgettable experiences, Brazil might just be the place for you.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out our other country episodes too. Available on all podcast platforms, search for Ultimate and the country name Travel Guide, and you'll find all of our past episodes. Our most recent one was actually Peru, which is Ultimate Peru Travel Guide. Is it overhyped or worth it? And for YouTube, even easier. You can go to our Ultimate Travel Guide playlist to find all the latest country episodes in one place. Another adventure wrapped up.
But the journey never ends.
Keep your bags packed for the next one. And remember, when in doubt, just say, Yalla Habibi. See you next time.